we consider red flags to be from a man's perspective? What are red flags when dating?
For me, first off, what is your relationship like with God above everything else? That's a first factor. If you don't have at least some kind of relationship, some kind of reverence for God in your life at all, to me, automatically it's a no go. It's not gonna work. So that's my top tier, immediate eliminator, no matter what, for sure for me.
Okay.
Uh, for myself, I think it's more the way that she treats the people in her life, the family in her life, um, more than that, how she treats herself, the level of tolerance that she has for negativity. Is it pretty much at a zero? Is she allowing drama to continue? Um, Not being solution oriented, handling things on her own, not deflecting issues that she has on other people. Um, yeah, this that overall care, self care and self love that she portrays. Um, those type of things. Like if it's there, then good. If it's not, then those are red flag. Like she has some building that she needs to do on her own. Some things that she needs to address before coming to the table and trying to establish something together. She needs to handle things individually on her own.
Hmm. That's good. That's good. I'm gonna come back to some of these. Dad, what about you? I know you ain't been dating for a long time, but if you had to give some nuggets to some of us young people, not just for men or women, what are red flags? What are those things that we should be paying attention to before we walking down the aisle?
Uh, don't so focus on outward appearance. I think a lot of times we focus a lot on our outward appearance, how we look, um, because knowing somebody from the inside is more important. I think when I was searching, I wanted to know what was, okay, the outside is great, but okay, but where's your heart? What's your passion? What do you want in life? That plays a big part to me because I was looking for somebody. I wasn't just looking for a wife, but I was looking for somebody that can be my friend and we can just share a conversation and be open with one another. And if there's an issue, we want to work on it. So basically, I just wanted to check the heart. Of course, now as a Christian, that's number one. But before I became a Christian, my first thing is that I was just see where their heart's at, where their head was at, because that plays a big part. Because when you bringing two lives together, when you got to live together, I want to know what I'm dealing with when you come into the house. So that's very important to me.
That's good. That's good. Pastor Carl, you want to pop up here? The question is, what are red flags when dating?
Hey, red flags when dating. Wow, there could be so many, but I would say for sure, is where you could see like lies or things that are being hidden or an inability to communicate clearly. I think are red flags for sure.
That's good. That's good. I have a Rolodex of different red flag questions. I'm not going to give them all, but I would say, how do you treat, watching the other person, how they treat their parents, specifically for you guys, how they treat their mom, if she's living, or that person that's close to you is very important. How they deal with their money, if they're just frugal or if they just splurging all the time. It's very important especially when you start building a home, that both parties can work together financially. It's very important. And then another question that I'm going to ask later a little bit is, how do you manage your emotions? It's huge, and it's like the more you grow, the more you understand how important it is to be able to self-manage. And so I think those are very important things when it comes to red flags. So I want to talk a little bit with, let me see where I want to go next. So let's talk about emotions a little bit, because a lot of times we as women talk a lot about emotions, but on the men's side, we either are, it's one of those things where there's barriers, or we just don't get to it, or it doesn't seem like it's as, I don't know, maybe not as prevalent. But emotions are important. So it's important that we deal with our feelings. It's so funny this morning when I got up, and I don't watch TV a whole lot, but when I popped it on this morning, Creflo Dollar was talking this morning about overcoming depression. And he gave some good points that I want to just highlight real quick. And he was saying how feelings come from the thoughts that weigh us down. Whatever we think about, and we know there's biblical aspects of this too. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he, et cetera, et cetera. But whatever we think about produces how we feel, right? What we watch and what we expose ourselves to actually add to that. So I want to ask the question, how do you deal with your feelings personally? And also, are you watchful of what you expose yourself to? So that may be media, music, entertainment, friendships. Are you mindful of that as now a man? We're not kids anymore. We're not boys. You know, I'm not a girl. We're grown now. So are we managing that? Are we mindful of that? Again, the question is, how do you deal with your feelings? And are you a person who's watchful of what you expose yourself to? It's just open for anybody.
For me personally, it's funny, I was just having a conversation about that the other day, and we were speaking about how men kind of cloud how we really feel sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's out of a pride thing, or sometimes it's just, a lot of men that I know, they were raised like that. They were raised, boys don't cry, suck it up. You know what I mean? So as you become an adult, you just adapt that into your adult life, and you feel like that it's not okay to show emotion. So when you get in a relationship, or even when you probably, I'm sure, become married, you're still that rock. You still don't know how to open up and be vulnerable and show emotion. So for me personally, I think I'm good at showing emotions. I don't always do it in a way that is as open as maybe as it should be. But me being a single father too, and having a little girl and a little boy, to me, I was just speaking the other day about how there's a different balance. You know, as raising a little boy compared to raising a little girl, you still have to treat them somewhat the same, but they're not the same. You know what I'm saying? Raising a little girl and a little boy, you have to handle them differently. So for me, I'm still learning that, to be completely honest, to be all the way transparent. I'm still learning the balance between the way you handle this, your emotions over here. And then I'm just grateful because God always convicts me when I feel like I go too hard with my emotions, and you know what I mean, when I'm not handling them the way that I probably should be. So I'm grateful for that, but I'm still honestly learning in that area.
Good transparent response. Thank you for that. Anybody else?
You go ahead.
Oh, no, Jeff brought up a very, very interesting, important point. And as men, as young boys growing to men, we observe, we view other men, and we try to emulate what we think is right. And a lot of times, like you said, you're a product of your environment in most cases, and until you're able to adapt to something and form into something much better. But if you're around emotionless men, if you're around toxic behavior, a lot of times you model that subconsciously. You may think it's wrong, and you may feel as though I'm not going to do that. But the more you're introduced to it, the more you're exposed to it, you know, you kind of conform to it in certain ways, in certain degrees. So just knowing where that line is, knowing not to hover over into that negative realm, and just having a positive guide, if it's someone in your life, or someone that you're viewing from afar, if you're gaining knowledge from books, and like you brought up a good point about media, that's another barrier that we have to discern and figure out, like, okay, is this correct? Is this the correct version of masculinity? You know, because as we grow into men and fathers, we're now being viewed, you know, we're that focal point. So like I said, we got to walk that fine path and know that what you're doing has consequences, whether it's directly or indirectly. So it's a constant battle. Like, I don't think we always have the right answers or we always do the right thing the first time, but long as we're fully aware of it, consciously aware of it, and making those adjustments on the fly, I think we're headed in the right path.
Good note. Good note. Thank you for sharing.
And
Anybody else want to talk about emotions? Emotions.
Yeah. And to tag on to what they're saying, yes, you know, a lot of things are learning. As you, like you said, in my time, you was taught, hey, man, don't cry, you know, suck it up, and all that things. But really, that's kind of like where it messes up as we get older, because we all should have emotions. I mean, it's, you know, he's told a man don't cry, but it's good to cry. Tears are good, you know, but that's something that they didn't tell us that back in the day, but it's good. It's good. I sit here and watch a movie now. Sometimes I'll be watching a movie and then something's happening in the movie. Extra minute, I'm trying to wipe my tears down because I'm getting emotional, because I'm feeling that movie and what the person's going through, you know, whether a person's heart getting crushed or something, and all of a sudden I say, well, you know, where's these tears coming from? That's a part in our life that I think we should not hide from our children, because it's very good that we let that emotion out. I mean, a lot of times in our life we've been told not to, but really you should, because you don't cry, that don't make, you know, because you cry, you don't cry, don't make you're a man regardless, and we do have feelings, you know, and you should let that feeling out, because it's almost like you holding it in, and holding it in is just like a volcano about to erupt. So you don't want to have it to that place. I think we should always, you know, realize that that's important, to not hold it in, but be open to who you are, you know. I learned that in life now. I mean, now I don't have a problem with crying. You see me in the movie crying, hey, hey, that's, if you say that's weak, okay, I'm weak.
I love it. And it sounds like the emotional understanding comes with maturity, because as young men, you know, you guys are kind of trained to stay tough and, you know, don't play with the girls' things and don't, you know, all of that, which we don't understand. I think now, being a mom, having the parenting perspective, and I think Deshard gave a good view on that. Whatever we're doing, they're watching us. So it's very important to cultivate healthy understanding. Yes, guide and lead, but it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, the maturity of understanding that your emotions are going to grow and that you should be able to experience them and be real with them is important.